you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Hi. So a few weeks ago, a student of mine asked me whether I could come here today to tell you about my experience as founder or co-founder of the social venture Puentes Global. And I thought, sure, easy, right? It's my own experience. How could I not be able to make a good story about it? And then I sat down to get started putting my story together, and I was stunned to realize I really could make no sense of my experience. And minute after minute, I sat in front of my laptop, my smartphone beside me, just writing notes on my notebook with my pencil and crossing them out. And in frustration, I started thinking, nothing about me really makes a lot of sense. Even to the smallest details. How is it possible that someone who cannot possibly think without a pencil in her hand cannot possibly live without a smartphone in the other? It's senseless, or is it? And then I realized I was really struggling in putting a story together because very deep within me, I believed that the two most important lessons that I've learned through social entrepreneurship could not be put together in the same story. And these two lessons are that the very primary old empathy is the most important driver for creativity in social innovation, and that technology is the most important tool you can ever use. And absurdly, I thought that empathy and technology could not belong to the same story. And many of the other inconsistencies or apparent inconsistencies of my career immediately came to me. How is it possible that a theoretical economist like myself, who is very passionate about philosophy and classical literature, has become an entrepreneur who enjoys her time with techies? I mean, my latest pet project is learn basics of programming. And I'm not meaning to say that I have evolved from someone who's into classical literature to someone who's into technology. I mean, I'm both. And I realized one of the biggest lies we're ever told is that in order to embrace the new, you need to let go of the old. Truth is, in social innovation, the contraposition between the old and the new is fake. You need them both. And my own story begins with empathy. When I was 18 years old, I founded a little NGO with a few friends of mine. Our role was basically, we went to impoverished neighborhoods, and we did homework with little kids who are in risk of social exclusion. We basically used the going in their homes to do homework as an excuse to get to meet their families and spend time with them and understand what the relationship was with the schools, the teachers, the hospitals, social services, and so on. And it so happened that many of the kids I worked with were children of migrants. And I was absolutely taken aback by how strong these people are, by their determination to build a better future for their kids, by how hardworking they were. And not only was I humbled, but much to my own shame, I was surprised. I was surprised because what I saw was not what I had been told about the migrant population in Spain. What I had in front of me had nothing to do with the tales that I had been told by society about who they were and what they were here for. Spending my time with them, learning to listen to them, I realized what super amazing human beings they are, how brave they are. In the last 20 years, more than 5 million people have entered Spain, and they have greatly contributed to our growth. In this time, we have managed migration policy just purely in a reactive way. But the international mobility of labor is not something punctual anymore. It's not something we can just react to. It's something we need to manage carefully and strategically. Okay? Let's say that in the 21st century, the people who push for the growth of a country might very well not be the ones who were born there. Or in other words, the Spaniard of the future might not be white and Catholic. But none of this is what pushed me to build Puentes Global. What pushed me to build Puentes Global was my experience day in and day out with them in their homes. It was the connection. It was the realization that now for me, their circumstances were something personal. And this is the very first lesson that I'd like to share with you. It is okay to make your professional life personal. Creativity comes with effort, either from need or from care. If you are lucky enough not to be in need, then you need to care. You need the old pencil of empathy. A lot of people might say that making your professional life personal is not good. I strongly disagree. If something that you spend at least 8 hours a day doing cannot be personal, then are you not a human being for 8 hours a day? It does come at a cost, though. It is absolutely true that if you take your job personally, you need to deal with a lot of emotional stress. You need to manage the fear of deceiving people's expectations permanently. You need to manage the fear of failing, the fear of harming someone. But managing all these things permanently will only contribute to your own growth. Or is it that people who don't take their job personally do not go through emotional stress? Don't they fear deceiving other people's expectations? Of course they do. And the biggest growth I have experienced has come from learning about true empathy. And a lot of people think that empathy is about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Untrue. Empathy is not about imagining yourself in somebody else's situation. Empathy is about understanding how somebody else feels in their own situation. And that's entirely different. And spending enough time with the users of our programs, understanding how they interpret their own circumstances, which is different from the way I would interpret them, was I in their situation, has kept us permanently innovating in our projects. Since we founded Puentes Global, we've been prototyping and testing different models to create more positive migration experiences, basically by promoting entrepreneurship among migrants. The most relevant program that we have right now is called Franchising a Better Future. And what we do here is we connect migrants who are unemployed or underemployed in Spain, who are thinking about returning, with companies who want to expand through low-cost franchises to their countries of origin, so that the migrant can buy the franchise and return with it. This completely changes the return, turning it into a successful culmination of the migration process, rather than a failure. We've been prototyping this for the last 2 years, and for 2 years, I've struggled with the question, can this be done? Can I put one person through the entire process? Because this is a very complex program. And now that we're super, super close to finishing our proof of concept, a new question haunts me. And this new question is, how can I make this program accessible to the biggest number of people? We have a good idea. We have the most important driver, which is empathy, but we didn't have the way. And I'm now convinced that technology is the only way. The only way to make sure that we make our programs accessible to the biggest amount of people, that we make the best use of the resources that we have, is by turning some of our processes, not all of them, because not all of them are capable to be transferred to technology-based, but the biggest number of our processes possible to tech-based. For the first phases of the development of our project, we have used very traditional processes that have kept us 100% in touch with our users. And this was awesome during the first phases of our existence because we needed to understand them. But these same processes, which were so great at the beginning, are really keeping us from moving forward. If I had like a pile of money floating down to me right now, if someone has any money to spare, what I would do is invest in turning Puentes Global from a socially innovative organization into one that also does intensive use of technology. This doesn't mean that we're going to lose the personal contact with our users, because that's key to us. We would lose our driver if we did. Okay? What it means is that we're not willing to sacrifice the opportunity to help many more people. It is precisely because we care. It is precisely because empathy is the driver of what we do that technology has become so important. So what I've basically learned through my experience is that the contraposition among the old and the new is fake. Tradition and avant-garde need necessarily to walk hand in hand in social innovation, just like my pencil and my smartphone do. Thank you very much.